Well, the same thing exists today. We call it building fans, not followers. And what I mean by that is that with our content strategy, it is no longer good enough to simply answer the question. Now, this proves true both for SEO from a Google ranking perspective, as well as from the human interaction perspective. It is no longer good enough to simply be the FAQ of our particular industry. You can't just settle bar bets with your content. You must hold the attention. You must hold the engagement so that you build a fan, someone who takes an action, shares the article, comments on it, emails someone about it, evangelizes that particular piece of content, and it stretches over the entirety of the buyer's journey. And feeding from Heskett's idea, the key is that this is an organizational strategy. In other words, content strategy these days must be more than just a siloed organization of teams producing assets for the website. It must be an enabling strategy that enables salespeople, executives, account services, all of the personnel to tell a consistent, holistic story. That's the only way that content ultimately scales, is if it becomes an organizational capability. Transform content into a business strategy. Not every company is going to have a content strategy, but every successful company will. So start transforming your content from a random siloed team of people producing digital assets into an incredible business strategy that drives value for your business.
And so we have to find this middle ground in the content that we create. That requires empathy. Now, empathy isn't always something in large supply inside organizations, and so I like to use this chart to show that content marketing is a consistent investment in strategic customer-focused content, but it delivers a financial accelerating return. And this is unlike paid advertising. Our clients, on average, spend about $85,000 per month on paid advertising. And the moment that they stop spending that money on paid advertising, well, you know that their results go down to zero. But with content marketing, our clients at least spend on average $4,000. They publish twice a week, and we're able to demonstrate $7 returned for every dollar that they invest in their content program. And so content marketing is an asset with real value that grows over time. This is a conversation that we should be having with executives every single day.
What I love about PR is the more natural you make it and the more earned you do, honestly, Google tends to reward you for it if you have somewhat of an aligned search strategy. Now, if you're just a cluster and you don't have any strategy, no, it's not as, it can be like you can start showing up for a bunch of random things. But I think that the best strategies that I'm seeing moving forward are PR strategies that are very natural, that are diversification. That's why a lot of SEO companies that do placement, they lose against like firms like us because they're just focused on like that third party market where they're buying links. Like we look at it and we're like, we need links from like 7 different types of sources. So you need them from properties where you can get features. You need ones that you can get lists. You need one where you can get in, this kind of, different form. You need ones that are follow. You need ones that are no follow. Like we're very, very natural, but then we're very strategic in how we're doing the naturals. That here's what we're doing, working towards. And so that's where I think that PR is, to me, it used to be like the goal was to get placement. Now the goal should be we're doing these placements to help us increase our organic traffic that results in industry leadership, which can be measured by organic growth, sales, leads, things like that. And so that's where I think that there's been this shift in PR recently.
Belonging for us essentially means having a space where you feel accepted, appreciated, and most importantly, that you feel seen. Right. I think that several companies now, and Hilton is no exception, we are wanting people to show up as their authentic self. But in which to be able to do that, not only does it take courage from that person, it truly takes a foundation set by the leadership of the company in which to be accepting of all diverse backgrounds, accepting of the differences, and actually taking a step forward in which to celebrate those differences. And that is where you end up finding that spirit of belonging.
It is also possible, and I will highly suggest if you have access to content optimization tools like MarketMuse, again, to check the level of competition based on your own pages, if they already exist for higher accuracy. We know that keyword tools will tend to give this generic level of competition for queries in SEO, but it will be much, much better to validate accordingly with your own existing pages, right? And now that you have this initial list of queries with all of these metrics already initially prioritized, taking into consideration not only purely SEO metrics, search volume, competition, etc., but also your own needs and goals from a business standpoint, is about like, when are this being searched, at what stage of the customer journey, in order to identify which are the type of pages that you need to create to optimize, or to even consolidate in order to effectively connect with them and rank for them, right? So when in the customer journey they are being asked, and where do you need to take your users to satisfy the search needs for this query? So here it's critical to assess the audience queries intent to identify what's the best way to target them. So if these are searched at the initial step, the awareness phase of the customer search journey, with information queries, researching how product services work. And for this, you will tend to create guides or resources type of pages, or blog posts, for example. Or if these are queries at the consideration stage, with more commercially driven queries assessing to buy products or services, in this case, the query should be then very likely needed to be targeted by categories, subcategory, features, brands, facet type of pages. Or if these are queries that are being searched at the purchase stage of the journey, with branded product queries, many times already convinced to purchase, looking already for that product page. And in this case, you will need very likely to be product pages, those meant to be ranked, to connect, to satisfy the needs and convert these users looking for them.
There's a lot of work to be done to make B2B content as bingeable as B2C content. B2B shouldn't be of any lesser quality or any less engaging. This is a director of content strategy at a software company I'm guessing many of us look up to, an F100 company. And I think sometimes we are guilty of being too polar in how we compare B2B versus B2C. Who cares, right? Like, who cares if it's B2C or B2B that you're creating? The receiver of that marketing is likely the same human. We're all consumers at the end of the day. We're all humans at the end of the day. Create experiences that you yourself enjoy, whether it's B2C or B2B. Yes, the buying journey is a little bit more complex. Yes, the spend is maybe a little bit more for B2B than B2C. But if you're not creating enjoyable experiences, how are you going to inspire your prospects? And what are you doing to imitate those B2C marketing experiences that you so much enjoy?
How you can zoom out. Instead of talking about just your product or service, now you're thinking about the scope of your entire vertical, the arena that you play in. And when you're doing more tangential content, you're definitely thinking about a more general audience. You're not thinking about specifically your target audience. However, you do want a general audience that would include your target audience. And the reason for this is that when you're able to overlap more of the like tangential side, like your overall brand mission and newsworthy elements, you're able to create the best kind of content you can for earning links. That's the caveat. Because the stuff on the left here,
humans are sort of this ultimate buyer of whatever you're selling. So they respond to empathy. They respond to like you being a human, you trying to reach them as a human. Whereas robots are another important user or reader of your content. They act as the medium that connects users with your content, and thus they respond to descriptiveness and intent matching, search intent. So it's important to understand here that robots can't buy whatever it is you're selling. We are not trying to appeal to them. We are only trying to loop them in a way that they can understand so that they can serve up your content to these humans that are empathetic and that actually have bank accounts and they can buy things. At the end of the day, we never want to put the robot first. So I want to make that very clear. The robot's not first. We optimize for the human over anything. But this book, this topic is all about sort of marrying the needs of both, so that you can show up where people are looking for you.
there's a
couple of different features within MarketMuse that we leverage. So starting with optimizing topics at a page level, if we have a single intent, we can use the optimize tool. So if the content has one single search intent, it has like a refined scope of content. So this would be ideal for something like a supporting article. And we can use this to target a sub collection of terms within a larger cluster. This is based on latent semantic analysis rather than simply correlational data. So it's incorporating that topic modeling approach. Another way that we use MarketMuse is by optimizing for multiple search intents. So we would use the briefs feature for this, for pillar pages or pages that have multiple searches. Traditionally, SEOs might look for something like secondary keywords, but now the approach is slightly different. So semantic and secondary topics related to the main topic is important, but we might want to optimize pages that have actually like different intents on the same page. So different reasons that users might get value from landing on this one page. If it's a very comprehensive page, for example, the page might cover what is this thing, why is it important, how do we use it, what are the benefits, etc. So these are all slightly different intents, but rather than creating distinct pages for each of these intents, the best solution here would be to consolidate all of them on one page. So that's when we would use the briefs feature. So how do we use it? We use that to create optimized content that kind of meets this criteria. So we create sections which kind of predefine all the different intents that we want to meet on that page. And the result is an optimized editor that has recommendations that factors in all of those important intents that we want to hit on the page. And they all have their own respective knowledge graph factored into those recommendations. So it sounds advanced, but luckily MarketMuse makes it really easy for us. The tool actually does a lot of the heavy lifting, so we can leave it to our team to just implement the recommended optimizations.
Decentralized content. The rise of decentralized content on blockchain platforms will substantially impact your content marketing strategy. How will it impact SEO? The truth is we don't know yet. One concern is that some of these things on blockchain aren't necessarily being searched by Google. Of course, that could change. Is it indexed? We don't know yet. It could be indexed, but we may be a long way away from seeing that happen. What does Web3 mean for the future of search if content on blockchain is not indexed? Well, that's a problem for you and your rankings. And I've talked to other people who've actually left WordPress and their content marketing strategy was on WordPress. They have moved to different chains like what I mentioned, and they have seen a significant drop in terms of being found for the terms that they want to rank for. Now, is that a short-term problem or a long-term problem? It could only be a short-term problem, and all of this could change in the future. However, these are things that you need to carefully consider before porting over your entire content marketing strategy onto any of these chains.
Okay, now that we talked about intent, we should talk about the who and the why. Before you start putting pen to paper in your content, you need to understand who are you writing for and why are you writing for them, or why should they care what you're saying. So, if you focus on the what, that's writing for keywords. But if you focus on the who and the why, that's people first content. So the who is your audience. And your audience, it needs to be very specific, because the more specific it is, the better is your content going to be. For instance, right now, my audience is SEO strategists, but even within SEO strategists, I could narrow it down to more specific audiences. So there might be SEO strategies for agencies, or it could be an SEO strategy for a brand. So it's very important to define your audience. And the more narrow you get, the more specific you get, the better your content could be. And now the why. Why would they care? What is it in it for them by reading your content? Why should they stay engaged? Okay, that is the intent. Are you solving a problem for them? Are you answering their questions? So why using topic clustering instead of focusing on keywords? Not only topic clustering is going to help you improve your SEO, it's going to deliver a better experience for your reader. And the reason why is because you're not only trying to answer one question, as with keywords, you're trying to answer all the questions. So again, much better experience for your reader. And also, it's going to be great for your linking strategy, internal links and external links. It's going to increase web conversion, and it's going to increase the engagement. Why? Because your user is going to spend more time in your site. It's going to spend more time reading your content. You're trying to answer all the questions. So if Google is saying that voice search is not the future anymore, then should you optimize for voice search? And we think the answer is yes, or maybe absolutely. And why should you optimize for voice search? Well, the use of voice-driven queries continues to increase. Maybe many of you own an Alexa or a Google Home. Of course, if you have iPhones, you're using Siri, right? So if a lot of search is being driven by voice search, why not optimize for it? And anyway, you want to write in a conversational way. So by writing in a conversational way, human or people first content, you're already optimizing for voice search. And we know that Google already have an unspeakable schema markup in beta. So you're future-proofing your SEO. So it's a no-brainer to optimize for voice search.
Moving beyond the real world, if you will, the touch points that are shared between a brand and its audience are those precious moments that you get with your consumer. Success is when those moments leave a positive impression. Create something good with your audience and deliver value back to the business. So when you think about it, customers and prospects are interacting with your touch points every second via all kinds of channels. There's 4.5 billion people connected to the internet right now, and 3.5 billion Google searches every day, clicks on paid digital channels, direct and indirect visits on a website via social media, referral sites. All of these things matter. There is no throwaway touch point. Companies have content goals and guidelines, but they're lightly understood and lightly governed. The world that we need to live in is about creating connections through the customer experience. It's about creating content that's the face of the business. It's about content that promotes emotion and brand loyalty and engagement and action. It's about building trust in relationships with customers. Now, how do you do that? Well, it's about looking at the things that make your content resonate. It's clarity, consistency, character, readability, it's tone of voice, it's terminology, empathy, inclusivity, all of those things. All these components that go into the creation and measurement of what we consider to be amazing, impactful content.
The impact of organic marketing programs on website performance over the last 12 months saw 90% of companies with high organic maturity saw at least a 5% increase in performance. The question that was given out here, the survey question was, how has SEO organic marketing programs impacted web performance over the last 12 months? So love seeing how, of course, the high maturity customers already committed to organic marketing had seen a additional growth in organic marketing. And of course, mid-market and low maturity still saw results as they were stepping in and stepping up their organic maturity and their organic marketing program.